When you live with the faith, average becomes impossible. You become unstoppable. And this is where everything comes together, where the war against average finally ends and the true self emerges. Because after all the lessons, all the setbacks, all the long nights and silent battles, you begin to see it clearly. The only thing that ever stood between you and greatness was you, not your upbringing, not your education, not the economy or your boss or the opinions of others. It was the small, silent agreement you made with mediocrity, the moment you decided that good enough was enough. But good enough was never your destiny. You were born for expansion, for impact, for evolution. You were not sent here to blend into the background of the ordinary. You were sent here to create, to rise, to lead, to become a living example of what's possible when a human being refuses to settle. You see, life has a contract with you, a sacred one. It promises you potential, but only if you pay the price of persistence. It offers you abundance, but only if you master discipline. It holds open the door to greatness, but only if you have the courage to walk through it. That's the law. That's the unbreakable truth. The world will give you exactly as much as you demand from yourself. No more, no less. So ask yourself, what are you demanding? Are you demanding excellence from your thoughts, your habits, your time? Or are you accepting average because it's comfortable, because it's safe, because it's familiar? Average will always whisper promises of safety. It will tell you, stay here. Don't risk, don't dream, don't fail, but safety is a slow poison. It keeps you breathing but never alive. It keeps you surviving but never thriving. Greatness, on the other hand, demands everything. It will test your patience, your faith, your will. It will break you open to rebuild you stronger. It will strip away your excuses until the only thing left standing is truth. And when you face that truth, when you finally look yourself in the eye and say, I am the architect of my life, something miraculous happens. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop wishing and start working. You stop envying and start embodying. That's the moment when the average dies and the leader is born. You begin to walk differently, not with arrogance but with assurance. You speak differently, not with noise but with conviction. You think differently, not in limits, but in laws. You realize that the same power that drove Carnegie to build empires, Ford to change industries, Edison to light the world, and Hill to teach generations, that power is alive in you. It always was. And now it's your turn. Your turn to decide what you will build, who you will become, and what legacy you will leave. Because the truth is, you are not chasing success. You are becoming it. You are sculpting it, breath by breath, choice by choice, day by day. No one will crown you. No one will announce your arrival. No one will hand you the life you dream of. You must claim it. You must rise and demand it through relentless consistency and unbreakable faith. The path won't be easy, but it's not supposed to be. Ease is the reward of those who earned their strength through struggle, and the very obstacles you curse today will become the foundation of your strength tomorrow. Every failure is feedback. Every delay is direction. Every loss is preparation for something far greater. You will stumble, you will doubt, you will fall, but that is not your end. That is your initiation. The fire that refines gold burns hottest before the metal shines. And when you emerge from that fire, you will no longer recognize the person who once settled for less. Because that version of you, the average you, cannot survive the heat of growth. Only the extraordinary you can. And when that extraordinary version takes the stage of life, the world takes notice. Not because you demanded attention, but because you embodied excellence. Not because you shouted louder, but because your results whispered truth. So rise. Rise from the ashes of your excuses. Rise from the comfort of your past. Rise from the weight of other people's opinions. Rise from the habits that dull your potential. Rise and meet the person you were always meant to be. Because the moment you do, the universe responds. Doors open, energy shifts. The right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities begin to orbit your determination, not by coincidence, but by law. The law that Napoleon Hill devoted his life to teaching. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So believe, not passively but fiercely. Believe like it's already yours. Believe so completely that doubt dies of starvation in your presence. Then act. Act like your dreams are obligations. Act like your goals are promises written in your soul. Act with such precision, such focus, such unwavering faith that the word average no longer fits in your vocabulary, because you were never meant for average. You were meant for mastery. You were meant to create ripples that outlive your lifetime. You were meant to build, to teach, to inspire, to lead, to become the living proof that the human spirit, once awakened, cannot be stopped. So don't just hear these words, embody them. Don't just feel inspired, transform. Don't just dream, decide. Because the world doesn't change when you wish. It changes when you rise. And when you rise, others will too. They'll see your courage. They'll feel your energy. They'll remember your name. Not because you were perfect, but because you were relentless. That is the legacy of greatness. That is the destiny of the uncommon. That is the reason you are here, to prove that average is a myth, and that true power lives in the mind of one who dares to believe. So go, with purpose in your heart, fire in your soul, and faith in your stride. Walk boldly toward the life you've imagined. Demand excellence from every thought, every breath, every step. Because one day, when the story of your life is told, the world will not remember you for playing it safe. They will remember you for rising. And when the final note of your story echoes across time, may it not be said that you lived quietly within the walls of comfort. May it be said that you broke them, that you defied every doubt, that you shattered every expectation, that you stood against the tide of mediocrity and declared, I will not be one of the many who settle. I will be one of the few who rise. Because the truth is, the world doesn't reward intentions. It rewards execution. It doesn't listen to the whispers of hesitation. It follows the roar of conviction. And if there's one thing the greats all shared, Hill, Edison, Ford, Lincoln, Jobs, Oprah, Disney, it was not genius, not luck, not privilege. It was the unshakable refusal to stop. They faced the same storms you face, the same rejection, the same fear, the same temptation to give up when no one believed. But they didn't give up. They couldn't. Because once a person tastes the power of purpose, comfort becomes unbearable. Once you've glimpsed who you could be, mediocrity becomes a prison. Once you've felt the weight of potential burning inside you, you realize that silence is betrayal, not to others, but to yourself. And so you rise again. You rise with calloused hands and a hungry heart. You rise with unshakable focus when distractions call your name. You rise when the world mocks your vision, because you know that mockery is just the applause of the insecure. You rise because average people quit when it's hard, but extraordinary souls are born in hardship. Every sleepless night becomes your teacher. Every closed door becomes your gym. Every setback becomes your sculptor. And you, the student of adversity, become the masterpiece. You stop chasing validation and start building value. You stop trying to impress and start trying to impact. You stop waiting for the world to notice and start doing the work that makes it impossible to ignore you. You understand now that wealth, success, greatness, they are not the reward. They are the result of invisible work, of quiet mornings when no one is watching, of sacrifices no one will ever know. It's in the moments when your mind whispers, you can rest now, but your soul replies, not yet, because there's still more inside you, still more to give, still more to become. And when you finally step into your destiny, when the world calls you lucky or gifted or chosen, you will smile quietly, because you'll know the truth. You weren't chosen. You chose. You weren't lucky. You worked. You weren't gifted. You grew. You chose the pain of growth over the comfort of excuses. You worked through the storms while others waited for the sun. You grew through the fire that most people ran from. And now you stand where few ever do, on the mountain of your own making. A mountain carved from discipline, faith, resilience, and time. A mountain built stone by stone through every decision that said, I will not be average. Look around. The world below is filled with dreamers who never began and starters who never finished. But you kept climbing. You didn't wait for the path to clear. You became the path. And that, right there, is the secret. The great paradox of life. The moment you stop chasing easy, everything hard becomes worth it. The moment you stop needing applause, your voice becomes powerful. The moment you stop waiting for permission, the world starts opening its doors. You understand now, average is not an accident, it's a decision. And greatness is not a miracle, it's a mindset. When your thoughts become disciplined, your actions follow. When your actions align with purpose, your results explode. And when your results start changing, your destiny does too. This is the evolution of a mind that refuses to die ordinary, the transformation of a soul that chooses faith over fear, growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure. And that transformation, that awakening, is what makes a life legendary. Because long after your name fades, your work will remain. Your courage will echo in someone else's breakthrough. Your discipline will light someone else's fire. Your faith will remind the next generation that impossibility is just a myth. That's what rising above average truly means. It's not about fame or fortune. It's about legacy. It's about leaving fingerprints on the future. It's about proving that humanity's greatest weapon has always been the human will. So let this moment be the turning point, the one where your heart decides no more half-living, the one where you stop surviving and start building, the one where every breath, every step, every thought declares, I was not made to be average, I was made to rise. And as the final words fade into silence, let them echo within you, not as motivation but as memory. Because one day you'll look back on this moment and realize this was where the climb began. This was where you chose to separate from the ordinary. This was where your story changed. And when they ask you how you did it, how you rose when others stayed still, you'll simply smile and say, I decided to stop being average.